Now they're making albums and they're friends with Simon Cowell. Hello, G4.
Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
There's an intro for you. We've got Matt, we've got Mike, we've got Jon, and we've got Ben, who are the stars of this group that were put together through the TV show X Factor, which was always going to be a success, really, because it had Simon Cowell involved. Let's get that out of the way first and talk to Jon. And how did you find him? Was he annoying or was he helpful?
A bit of both, I think. It was just nerve-wracking to be standing in front of Simon, and you've seen him giving his comments before, and you're always worried about what he's going to say, and to walk in on our first audition and to actually experience that in real life, and then to get the positive reaction back, I think just caught all of us.
We're joining you on tour today, and you're selling out big arenas, and everybody's coming to see you. What is that feeling like? I mean, it must be peculiar at the beginning to think that people are actually going to pay to see you.
It's incredibly strange to think that people, bought the album in the first place, and then that they're coming along to a tour to see us performing live, and it's really touching to see the audiences packed every single night, and that I haven't seen an unhappy face leaving at the end of it as well. Everyone's up on their feet having fun, singing along. The great thing about our repertoire is there's loads of tracks people know all the words and they can sing along straight away, and that atmosphere that's generated, particularly by the end of the gig, is just amazing, and we go home with such elation, and the audience seem to as well. When we leaving for the bus, they're screaming and asking for autographs and photos, and it's just a whirlwind, amazing ride.
Matt, was there ever a point where you wish you'd have done this by yourself and not done it with the guys, because you could be the big star opposed to G4 being the big star? Did you ever consider that?
No, not at all. Jon saw the advert for the show, and we'd been together for about 6 months at that point, and we thought, well, we'll give it a go, and we went along and we got the response we did, and we went through the whole course of it together. And I think if we'd have tried to go on our own, probably wouldn't have made it, but being together, it's helped us immensely, because we've had people to talk to and who were going through exactly the same thing. During the show, I felt sorry for some of the soloists because they were going through it on their own. Luckily, we had, there was 4 of us to bounce ideas off, and that it creates a really good working environment.
I think, we always said that we got on, and we did. We're on tour at the moment. We've got Voice with Soul as our support act, and we always said through the show we were, best mates with them, and that just goes to show now that we're still good friends with them. But obviously, during the show, the soloists did say to us many times that they felt very much on their own, and I think there was more clashing between the soloists than there was between the groups. The groups category got on really well because we were kind of going through the same thing, whereas the soloists, because they were trying to do their own thing and stand out as individuals, it was harder for them, and they definitely struggled, and they weren't quiet about it, amongst us.
Ben, let me ask you an honest question. Did you actually think that you'd get through? Because, you're so different and odd compared to the others. They all seem to look like Britney Spears these days, and frankly, none of you look like Britney Spears. Did you ever consider that you might actually win?
Well, I think when we turned up for the first audition and we had to look around, and there were people in tight T-shirts and skinny jeans and stuff. There's us in our 4 suits looking like bankers, I think we were described. I think we never really thought that we were going to get anywhere. We walked in the room and we were just scared more than anything else as to what they might say. But to get the reaction that we got off them just threw us completely unawares, and through every stage of the competition it was the same. Every time they said a compliment, we were like, wow, and we didn't quite know how to take it or how to react. So it was that level of surprise all the way through that I think A, got us to where we are, kept our feet on the ground, and B, hopefully endeared us to people who are watching back home.
I think you certainly courted the press, didn't you, with your style, because there were some choices of songs that we'll talk about a little later on that I thought were peculiar. But in one way, it did you good because it got you talked about, and that's what you need on those shows, isn't it?
Are you talking about Britney again? We had some interesting song choices, and I think that's one thing Louis is particularly good at, and he takes some massive risks with it, and I think we didn't realise at the time the huge amount of risks that we were taking throughout the show with our choices of songs, and in particular with that one, it was an interesting one. It's not made the album, it's here on tour, and people have great fun with that, but it did definitely get people talking, and we suddenly became a real talking point, sort of playground style or office. If you hear those guys last night singing Britney, what's that all about? And even if they didn't like us, they talked, and that helped us definitely.
We're going to find out what the feeling like is to hear your song on the radio for the first time next. We're going to play some music throughout the show. Collectively, which is your favourite track that when you're doing the live show is your favourite? Is there one song that sticks out?
We've all just looked and nodded at each other, or Mike and I have anyway. Bohemian Rhapsody, I think, particular with the tour, because we're performing it in its full length and everybody knows it and everyone headbangs. You've got the grannies in the front row headbanging along and everybody just having a great time, and because it's the end of the show, it's an amazing rush.
I think that's a special thing about Bohemian Rhapsody. It has no barriers, and we've, as John said, it's grannies dancing to it, and it's every age group, and everyone seems to know the words, and that's what's great about that one particular song.
We're here today with an exclusive hour-long programme, and I'm joined by my first guest, one of the boys, Matt Stiff, who has got, again, such a unique voice, and it's such a thrill to talk to you. How are you?
I'm very well, yeah.
Now, this isn't the first time we met. Do you remember?
No, I don't actually, if I'm honest with you.
Well, it was in August last year, and it was before you were even known by anybody, and you were at a wedding, Claire and John's wedding, and you stood up and performed. And we all said, we've got stories to tell about that wedding as well, don't you worry. You stood up and you sung for them at the wedding, and we all just sat there open-mouthed, and at that point you were no one. And look at you now, I'm sat here interviewing you.
Well, I'm actually shocked because you've really caught me on the hop there. Well done. No, it was a great day, and they asked me to do that. I'd known them for many years, and as a singer, and they asked me to sing at their wedding, and it was literally just as this was kind of all taking off, and I've spoken to them just after Christmas, and I've had a few messages from them. But it's a completely different thing to standing up at your friend's wedding, to standing up on live TV, singing to 12 million people, and then to take that away and be on your own tour, and on a sellout tour, and 20 dates in. It's just a complete, mind blowing experience.
Did you always believe that you were good enough to be on the show?
We believed in ourselves as our capability as singers, and that's what we took with us, and that's what we offered, and it was enough to get us through the rounds. And then we worked hard on the boot camp stage, and that got us through there, and then we earned a place on the live finals. Honestly, as a group on the live finals, they said to us, you pack enough clothes for 2 months because you may be in the final, and we all kind of looked at each other and said, nah, don't be silly. And we all had to go home halfway through and get some more clothes. So it was only, I think, after the halfway point, once we'd been in the bottom two and we fought our way out and we managed to stay in the competition, I think it was only then that we thought, well, you never know, because each week we were like, we're going home this week, and I think the public got behind us in a way that we could never have imagined, and just gave us the support that we needed to end up in the final.
The problem that was happening with these pop idol programs is everyone was the same. There was nothing different in it. Everybody seemed to look the same and sound the same, and they were very polished and they were good. Rowetta was very different. She was good to watch. But you kind of brought something interesting every week, and the choice of songs that they gave you certainly were peculiar. And the Britney song that they made you sing, I think, is the reason that we're sat here today, because it got you so much press. Did you realise what was going on at the time, or was it just a big blur?
I think we arranged that song. We were given a list before the finals, and we arranged that song about 2 months ago before we actually sang it. And we really liked it. We thought it sounded great. It was a bit of fun. And it was only, I think, after the event, then everyone was like, what they're doing, that we actually realised that we'd caused such a commotion. We were just up there singing, enjoying ourselves. And I said at the time, it was a Saturday night entertainment show. And looking back on it, we tried to entertain people, okay, with different song choices, but at least people knew what we were doing.
What's it like being talked about by people like Jonathan Ross? Just last week on the radio I heard him talking about you, and on his TV show he mentioned you a few weeks back, and you're on Des and Mel and you're here and you're there. Just for a guy that a year ago was unknown relatively, that must be hard to deal with. How have you coped with it all?
Well, it's completely weird, and coping with it is a completely alien thing, but we've been fortunate enough to meet Jonathan Ross when we were on Anton Deck, and I had a chat to him about suits and where he got his suits from. He's a really nice guy, but for him to go away and talk about us on his own show, if people like that know what we're doing and appreciate what we're doing, then it can only be a good thing.
What's the feeling like, though, knowing that Jonathan Ross knows you? Because that's odd, isn't it?
That is very odd. It's you can't quantify it, really. He's met some of the most famous people in the world, and yet he knows who we are and feels that he wants to talk about us on his show. So I just, once again, it's one of the weirdest things in the world.
Were you always a great singer? Were you told as a child that you were going to be a star, or at least you were going to be a singer for the rest of your life?
Not at all. I didn't start singing until the age of 17. I was actually a brass player. I used to play trombone, and it was only at A-level that I'd changed. Well, it didn't change. I started singing, and I found that I had a voice, and then I went to university as a singer, then did a postgraduate, and then I met the guys. And so I'd only been singing, even now I've only singing for about 8 years, whereas some of the guys have been singing from the very young ages as schoolboy choristers and things. So no, it was a complete surprise to me to start singing at all in my life, yet to end up here.
Thank God you put down that trombone. You wouldn't be here now, would you?
No, I wouldn't.
What about your image? Because you've had loads of press about it, and everybody talks about you and your image, and of course there's Jon, and he's the good-looking one, and you've all got this different reputation. How much have they made you not be you? Have you managed to keep who you really are?
I think to say that this whole experience hasn't changed any of us is, would be a lie, really. You have to change because it completely turns your entire life upside down. We are nice people, and and I think that's what comes across. We're not, trying to be something we're not. We're not being true to ourselves. We are singers. We go out there, we perform, and people seem to enjoy it and love us for it. And if that's what we do, then that's what we do.
It's very interesting that you didn't win X Factor. We haven't mentioned that yet, but it seems to me that in terms of PR, in terms of talkability, in terms of people coming to see you, you are the guys that won X Factor.
Well, thank you very much.
Let's talk to Michael Christie now, who is another one of the good-looking boys from the band. I'm feeling quite inadequate sat here today, to be honest with you, and presumably this has got you a lot of attention.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just been incredible. When we turn up to venues, there's people waiting, and then after venues, when we do signing, a lot of people want to stay on and get things signed. So it has been incredible. But I mean, it's nice to get attention, obviously, and to be honest, as we're starting out in this career, however fast and long it's gone, we need the support, and it's fantastic to think that people do want to support us.
Are you one of these performers that wants the attention, or are you one that would just rather do the show and then not be known?
It's hard to say, really. I mean, I obviously enjoy what I do, as we do in the group. I mean, I just love singing, and the concept that people are enjoying us as when we're enjoying it, it can't get any better than that. It's just a wonderful feeling, and it's not about wanting the attention. And obviously when you're not performing, when you're not in the public eye, you want to go home, you want to be normal, and you've got your friends and family back there, and you're just Mike, or you're just whoever when you're at home, and you don't want to be treated any differently because you're just normal, and you need your feet kept on the ground, really. It's really important.
Have you got a lot of people around you that do that day in, day out? Because when you're reading about yourself in the papers, it must be easy to go, I want this, I want that. I mean, and you have the right to do it, really. There are people around us today that will bring you anything. If you ask for it, they will bring it you.
Yeah, I think at the moment we're a bit too nice, to be honest. We're when we hear of various other stars and whatever that have got riders where they want lambs and they want white covered dressing rooms and they want everything, all this stuff, and all we want, on our rider is a good sound system that works. And a bowl of fresh fruit, but who knows if it will change. But we're just down to earth guys, and we're four mates who kind of got a lucky break through X Factor, really enjoying what we're doing, and we're just taking it as far as we can.
How have you come on as a performer, not technically as a singer, but as a performer in the last year? Because there's one thing being trained to work a camera on a Saturday night with all those people around you and you can rehearse and rehearse, but to actually have a charisma to make people enjoy a 2-hour show is quite different. I mean, is that difficult?
It makes a big difference depending on where you're performing. There's obviously lots of different contexts, but when we started at music college, classically, we were always sort of trained to stand very upright, and when you're announcing a song, you might be saying this aria comes from whatever, and blah, 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 in a very well-spoken voice, and you explain the character and everything. But now it's more like, all right, is everyone all right out there? And let's make some noise, and it's a bit faking it, taking 4 opera students out of college and bunging them on the pop stage. Yeah, the different contexts. I mean, obviously we were on X Factor, and that was a great sort of learning experience for us, because we got to work with the press and learn to deal with all the media and everything, and having the TV cameras. And I think it was fantastic for us, and we needed that, obviously, because it was such a jump from going from the classical music world into the pop music world. But it's just, everything's been a learning experience, and it's one thing being on a theatre stage, it's one thing being on an arena stage. Everything has to be much bigger, obviously, and if you're doing TV on cameras, it's very intimate, and you're looking into the cameras and you can see very close expressions. So depending on what you're doing, it's actually very different. But I mean, all of this I have, and we all have, gained in confidence, and every performance we do, there's more confidence behind it, and we're more relaxed. And obviously if we're more relaxed, and the audience that watches us is more relaxed with it and enjoys it more.
How protected were you during the show from what was going on in the outside world? Because as a radio DJ, every Monday morning, that would be 2 hours of my show discussing what you guys did on the Saturday night and everybody else. Seriously, I mean, this is what we do. We reflect what people are talking about, and everybody was talking about X Factor. It was the biggest thing in the country when it was on. How protected were you from the negative stuff, the positive stuff, the newspapers, the TV? Did you stop watching? Did you stop buying newspapers, or did you love it and read everything?
Well, when all the papers came out with stuff, we were excited that we were in it. So we were buying everything, and all our relatives and friends and everything were buying them and sending them along if we'd missed anything. And then if we were on TV, separate of X Factor, and obviously the live shows, we were looking at those to start with, just to learn from them, to see. I mean, it was really hard to watch ourselves on TV, but and we see ourselves being interviewed and sort of cringe, and then we see ourselves singing and cringe. It was all pretty awful, but you know, it was to start with, it was really exciting to see in the paper, and luckily we didn't get any bad press. But inevitably, as everyone does, you do get bad press, and now you don't look at it so much, and you know, sometimes people will love you and other people will hate you, and you just got to deal with it and get on with it.
What about the people that are out to get you? Newspapers have to fill columns, and I'm not going to sit here watching you in a supermarket shouting at a lady, and I'm not going to comment on it, but there are people in newspapers who will send people out to watch you. I mean, do you have to be very careful now when you're in public of who's watching and what you're doing?
I think you're obviously more aware of it, and there's certain things you can't do, and we're in the start of our career, but I mean, I do feel sorry for artists that are really mega famous, because it must be really hard. They can't get on a train, and we can do things now. We're not as restricted as other people, but it is strange, and it's just about being aware of what you're doing. And there's a lot of the gossip magazines and stuff, they have things where you can send in a photo and you get like 300 quid for it, you know, and Matt and Jon have been in that before, and it's quite interesting. So there's always pictures being taken, but it's part of the job. It's always going to happen, and you just have to deal with it and come to terms with it.
You're obviously blessed to be sat here and having this big show and a lot of money behind you. It's not cheap to make a CD. It's not cheap to have somebody make a CD. It's not cheap to put on a tour. It's very expensive, and somebody to back you is so rare. And I do all these interviews and speak to stars that have spent 40 years getting to where you are now, and get quite bitter about people like you who just go to fame within a year and are filling arenas like they are. Do you feel guilty about that at all, or do you just think, well, that's their luck?
I don't think there's anything to feel guilty about. I mean, everyone has their own journey, and we are something very different. X Factor was a TV show that had never been on before, and we are doing our own thing, and it's as successful as it is, and as anyone. And I think a lot of musicians would absolutely kill to have the exposure that we had, and it was incredible, and it would cost you millions and millions of pounds to get that sort of exposure. But you know, you've just got to do your own thing, and we do hear, obviously, people slag us off for things, but everyone gets slagged off, however many years they've been around and however successful they've been. And I remember when our album came out, we got slagged off by one paper, and then more recently the Coldplay album came out, and they slagged them off as well. And you're thinking, they sold nearly 500,000 copies in their first week, and they're, you know, and they were number one in 28 countries. So you can't win with some people. You just got to do what you do, and luckily we've got enough support to carry on with that, and that's why we do it.
They always say you can't believe any press, because if you believe the good reviews, you have to believe the bad ones as well. And I don't know about you, but no matter how long I'm in the business, it never becomes less personal. You never become less offended by somebody saying something nasty. But I suppose you put yourself here and you've got to take it, haven't you? Yeah,
I mean, words are very strong. Someone can just say something and it can really affect you. But, you know, once, you know, obviously we're going out on stage tonight, people have gone out and bought tickets to see us, and people are buying our albums, and we've got the support out there, and it means a lot to us. And obviously we wouldn't be here without it, and we've just got to concentrate on that and try as best to ignore anything else.
When you go out on that stage, do you ever think, why me?
I see it as a real opportunity, and it is something that I know a lot of people would like to be in the position that I'm in and that we're in, but you know, it is me. I am in this situation, and I'm really enjoying it, and you know, I want to make the most of it, obviously, as I said, because other people would want to do it, and it's great.
What's the best perk so far? I didn't say what was her name. I said, what was the best perk?
I mean, there's been so many fantastic things that have happened. I mean, just being on tour, the live performing, I mean, we do spend a lot of time, we do all sorts of things, but for us, the live performing is the real treat at the end of it all, and to be performing in the Royal Albert Hall as part of our tour, that was really special. And I don't know, we have, you know, dreams and things, goals we want to achieve, and it just everything seems to be coming true, and so we just constantly moving the goalposts further and aspiring to new things to carry on with the journey. But it's amazing.
Okay, we're on tour today with G4. We're here with an exclusive hour-long programme on your favourite local radio station. We're playing songs from the new album by G4. What is your favourite song in the show?
I think it's a difficult one, but I'm going to say Jerusalem, because it holds memories for me. When I was a chorister, and I was in the film Foilings and the Funeral as a chorister, and we sung that. And also it was something when I left school, it was always sung at the last assembly. So it's got special memories, and I'm really proud of what we've done with it, and I think it's great, particularly Matt's little solo bit, the very low bit in it.
Okay, coming up next, we talk to Ben and we talk to Jon. We're here today with G4 on your favourite local radio station.
And in those feet in ancient time walk upon England's mountains green, and was the holy Lamb of God on England's pleasant pastures seen, and did the countenance divine shine forth upon our clouded hills, and was Jerusalem built here among those dark satanic mills. Bring me my opening gold, bring me my arrows of desire, bring me my spear, clouds unfold, bring me my chariot of fire. I will not cease from mental fight, nor shall my sword sleep in my hand, till we have built Jerusalem in England's green and pleasant
That's Jerusalem by G4 on your favourite local radio station. My name's Alex Belfield, and for the hour we're here with G4. Next we're going to talk to Jon, but first we talk to Ben. How are you, mate?
How are you doing? Yeah, I'm fine.
Now, you've got a look about you that everybody remembers, and that was the good thing about this group, wasn't it? That you're all quite different. You weren't like stereotypical boy band guys. Everybody knew who you were the minute they saw you. Is that just luck, or did you work on your image for the show?
I think when we first turned up on the show for the first audition, I don't think we really thought about it, to be honest. We were four guys trained classically, and when you turn up to a classical concert, you wear a suit. It's one of those protocol things. We thought, we'll turn up and wear a suit. You know, this is what we are, this is what we do. And somehow it seems to have stuck, and we kind of end up wearing suits now in a lot of things we do. So it's all fallen in luck in a way, but it's been a very happy coincidence.
Were you always a great singer, or did you come late into it as well at 18?
I started singing, I did a bit as a boy. When I got to about 13 or 14, I really started to enjoy singing. I sang most of the way through my break-in voice. And my godmother was very religious, and I went to church most Sundays and sang in the church choir, and that was really how it started. It was there I met my first singing teacher, Julia Caddick, and she taught me all the way up until I was 18. So I was very fortunate to have people from a young age who were happy to invest in what I was doing.
Did you ever think for a minute that you'd be starring in your own show and getting 3,000 people to come and pay every night?
Never. I thought one day, if I was very, very lucky, maybe I'd have an opportunity to perform to people in whatever guise that might be, but never did I think it would be something like this.
What was it like making the album? Was that fun? Was it difficult? Was it stressful? Because there was a lot of pressure on you. When you left the show, you couldn't do anything for a while because you didn't win, and that was part of the deal. But then you'd got to produce something that was going to sell, because if you didn't sell, they wouldn't do anything with you after that. So what kind of pressure was on you during that period?
I think there's always pressure. I think if you go into an industry like this, there's always pressure, and people are watching you, people are watching out for you, and after you come runners-up in such a big show as we were involved in, people are definitely intrigued to see what happens next. Fortunately, the album was received really well, and we did very well with that, and people have bought it and listened to it and enjoyed it, so we've been very fortunate.
How do you deal with the public attention when you're outside and they're coming up and want to see you? Are you embarrassed by it, or do you enjoy it?
I think it's evolved over time. I think when it first happened, like when we were on the show and stuff, people are like outside waiting for us, and I think we all found that a bit strange to start with. But now it's just lovely chatting to some people. Have been people who've turned up to more than one gig on the tour, who've come and supported us all the way around. It's been really, really lovely to see that level of support, and to chat to them and find out a little bit more about them as well has been really great.
What about the Bonkers fans? What about those that write you every week and are obsessed with you and want to marry you? How do you deal with those?
I wouldn't say they're bonkers, they're lovely. But no, it's really nice. It's lovely to think that we've touched people to that level of that they want to write to us all the time. We've got a few people who write like multiple letters and multiple cards to us on the tour, and to think that people are following us all that way around, and it's just absolutely incredible.
How fun is touring on a scale of 1 to 10? Because, I do some clubs and I go around, and it really isn't much fun. The show bit's fun, but the travelling's difficult, the hotels is horrible, and frankly, the driving home is miserable. How are you finding it? Is it just a laugh a minute, or is it tiring now?
I think luckily, we've got people surrounding us who are really, really good company. We're having a great time with them, with the band, with tour manager, with Voices with Soul, who are supporting us, and we're having a really good laugh with that. There are points when you're tired, you come off and you've got to travel for 3 hours to your next place, and you are tired, but luckily we're all keeping ourselves buoyed, and it's going out there and delivering live gigs to people and seeing how you affect those people by standing and singing, that I think it keeps us all going through that.
Frank Sinatra always said in his later years that his worst fear was that one day he'd get on stage and open his mouth and nothing would come out, or at least what the audience were expecting wouldn't come out. How do you have to look after your voice day in, day out? And can you go out afterwards getting drunk and having a good time?
I think when we were students, we got very much into the habit of being able to drink a little bit and have a good time and turn up and sing the next day. But it's a very different pressure when you're in something like this, turning up, and that if you turn up the next day and you're not able to perform for whatever reason, it impacts amongst the other 3 people in the group, and B very badly on the group, in their general perception to the public. So there is that pressure on you, but I think the main thing is you get a good balance. I think we all go mad if we were stuck up in home like hermits, all the time. So it's important to go out, and when you have time off, relax, but it's work hard and play hard, I think.
Do you get sick of the other lads at some point? So there are moments where you just have to go and get away from them?
Oh yeah, entirely, all the time. No, I think it's important because we spend so much time together, the 4 of us, and we were commenting on how much more it is than any other person at any walk of life that you spend time with, more than like a girlfriend or more than your parents if you were living at home even. So there comes a time when, for your own sake of mind, you want to get away, I guess. But at the moment we're all getting on great. It's remarkable how well we do get on considering the amount of time we spend together, and we always have little arguments or little things, comments to say to each other, but we've learned over the course of time, I think, to take that better and better as we go on.
One man that seems to be very popular with the ladies is Jon Ansell. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Right,
let's get it out of the way first of all. Why do they like you? What is it about the women that you seem to be the one that they all want to see naked in magazines?
I don't know if they want to see that. The blonde hair, I think the fact they bleached me quite a lot as well drew attention. The fact the other guys have got dark and Ben's almost black, it drew the light into my direction. I think it started from there, and some people say I got a baby face and cute, I don't know, it's embarrassing.
It's embarrassing, but I'd like someone to say it about me once or twice. Can't do any harm, can it?
You're not as ugly as you're making out on this.
Oh, thank you, you're very kind. There you go, you sound a compliment. Something that's even more astounding is that voice. And listening to the CD in the car, with no disrespect to the other guys, you've all individually got really amazing voices, but yours is so distinct that it would either be horrible to people or amazing. Do you agree?
I can see where you're coming from there. It's incredibly high throughout a lot of the album, and I think that's something that, strangely, I feel very comfortable in doing. It's odd. I've just always, since my voice broke, been able to sing incredibly high, higher than most people, and I've always found that in more ways better and more comfortable than anything else, and somehow we've incorporated it even more within our album, within the group. I'm singing ever higher and higher and exploring that, and I think the depth of vocal colour between Matt and then myself very high gives us the huge depth in harmonies and the excitement that we can generate with track, but especially when we're going a cappella.
There's no better thrill for me than to hear a good barbershop, and I think that's at core what you really are, aren't you? You're four guys that are so note perfect that you can sing together and you just make a beautiful sound. As you say, Matt's so deep and then you're so high. Are you falsetto? What are you? I mean, what is your voice?
An incredibly high tenor, and it's not falsetto. That's the odd part about my voice. I've got no falsetto at all. My voice just goes up to there, and I can float notes, or I can tank them, sing them very.
You can tank a note.
Yeah, it's a Ben saying. When you just give a note loads and just doing it really really loud, you tank it. So I can float and tank high notes.
Okay, you can float and tank. I'll make a note of that. Let's talk about your voice during the show, because there must be points where you have got a fear that the note might not be there because you're so high. Is that a problem, or is it just natural to you now?
At first it was kind of freaking me out, the fact that I was singing so high, but then as the group went on and rehearsals went on, I became more and more confident that I'd hit those notes. But I think there was a major part within the show that I was incredibly worried. There was a week when we did get through completely unexpected, and the elation period, when the result was given, I shouted and unfortunately strained vocal cords, so I had about 5-6 days off, and then I had to sing the day before the next live show. Incredible amount of pressure, and we sung You Never Walk Alone, and to come out, and that started with me as a complete solo singing it, and we set it up with a bit of a video of how I'd been worried that week, and then to come out and sing that was incredibly touching for all of us to do that performance, and the fact that we got out the end of it and I got all the high notes, incredible elation.
Do you have any perception when you're stood there in front of that camera that there could be 13 million people watching?
You don't at the time have any perception of the outside world at all. You're sitting there, you've got a couple of hundred people in the studio audience, the panel, and you're just kind of working off that. But then it's amazing what people remember from, don't know, part of your aspect of your singing, or a comment you made, or small things about what you wore. Amazing numbers of people were watching that, and you just have no realization at all until you come out and you start getting recognized and stuff, and then it's suddenly hits home, and getting full audiences each night cheering your name and the group and just going mad and having such a great time. Seeing that face to face is our realization now.
How well did they look after you? I mean, were you given everything you wanted? What kind of fun life was it?
We definitely weren't given everything we wanted. We fought for quite a few things that we'd have liked. Even just tickets to get family into some of the shows would have been cool. It was a very, very strict regime. The whole show had a specific format before we turned up, and to be honest, we were just numbers at the time until you get to the latter stages, and then you can kind of make a few diva-ish demands of I don't know, silly things like they did our shopping for us for food, and you'd say that you don't just want apples, you'd like some oranges this week, and you felt like you were making a real strong stand, but it was small things like that, nothing on a grand scale at all.
Do they let you go out even, or do you have to stay within their control?
You can go out, but you have to let them know where you're going, which I think for all of us was very hard, in particular Ben. We all had to change ourselves quite a lot, and the fact that you had to ring someone up and tell them that you were going down the pub with your mate, or just going to a cinema, or whatever you were doing, you had to let them know. And obviously it's for your safety, but it's quite strange that people have to know that, and you've kind of lost your individuality a little bit.
Having completed the programme, what's your opinion of Sharon Osbourne? Because I interviewed her in Aussie in New York about 2 years ago, and she's totally bonkers but fabulous with it.
I think you summed it up. Totally bonkers but fabulous with it, and she completely is adorable. You sort of, you're in awe when you first meet her, and you just think, wow, this woman's so charismatic, so beautiful, so I don't know, so famous, and there you are stood in front of her. She then knows your name, and she'll come up and give you a hug and a kiss when you come in the studio, and joke about, I mean, there was was one time we were doing a sound check and she was lowering her top and flashing her brassiere at us, which was incredibly amusing and much to the annoyance of the producers at the time, because we were all in hysterics and we were meant to be focused because they had only a certain amount of time with the camera guys to rehearse this thing. But she was so funny. She was serious at the time she needed to be, but incredibly funny. And I had the opportunity to meet Ozzy as well. My sister had a bit of paper that she was getting everybody's autographs for, and I went in and got Sharon and Ozzy's. It was incredible. He broke my pen actually because he left it on the paper and there's massive blotches around his name. So it's a lovely memory to do that, and just an amazing couple.
She really brought a lot of drama to the programme and made it the huge success that it was, really, because especially in the last few weeks when she started going slightly bonkers. I mean, it was just great TV, wasn't it?
Fantastic TV, and it was gripping watching the artists, but to watch the panel bashing off each other and the banter between the performers and then the panel and all of it, it was such a pantomime, really, but incredibly gripping television.
Is your next album going to be G forever? Is this going to go on forever, or what are you going to do?
Hopefully the next one won't be G forever, because hopefully there'll be a third, and then it would be hard to follow that. I don't know. We're looking for longevity completely. I think we've got our own little gap in the market. We're pretty much unique, and we've got an amazing following of fans and supporters. So I don't know. The sky's the limit. We just want to keep producing music, keep having fun, and keep just being true to everybody around us. I think that's very important.
I think the lucky thing that you've got that so many of the bands haven't is that you weren't flung together and made to sing with each other, because it never works. These bands don't get on, they don't like each other, and you can't tour with someone and be in a coach with someone for days on end if you don't like them. And I think that's the reason most of these people split up. And if you do genuinely seem to like each other, as you've come across today, it bodes well for the future, doesn't it?
Completely. Yeah. We were just a bunch of mates that just had fun singing, and that's exactly how the group came about. We were just doing it as a pastime outside of classes, sit down the pub and chat about how well the rehearsals went, and just, I don't know, the fact it did start from that, and that we went back a few weeks ago to college and sat in the bar, and the memories that you have from that, and I don't know, it's amazing. Really, really great that we're just here with four mates. It's cool.
Guys, I've just spoke to one of the producers, and they said that we can go on for another hour, you can talk to me for another hour, or you can go and see your 3,000 screaming gorgeous girls that are waiting for you. It's up to you.
Girls.
Jon, Matt, Michael and Ben, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today, guys, and I know you're really busy, and have a great show, and I wish you all the success in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you.